Welcome to the Wyoming State Library Database tutorial, CultureGrams. This is a perfect database for public libraries and schools and even book clubs. Learn about countries around the world, the people, their lifestyle, and customs. The Wyoming State Library marketing campaign for December highlights this resource. Beginning here at gowild.net, I'm going to select alphabetically. Here on the CultureGrams main page, you'll see that there are 4 editions: World, States, Kids, and Provinces. I'm going to start here in the World edition. There are more than 200 country-specific reports. You'll find here a drop-down menu where you can select a region or a country, or you can use the map to select an area. I'm going to start here in Oceania. To the right of the map of that region, you'll see that there's an overview, and I can read about that area, its history, its languages, its population, and notice that it tells you who it's written by. So now I'm going to select a place. Notice that there also includes American Samoa, one of the U.S. territories, but I'm going to select Papua New Guinea. Each one of the country pages or states or provinces includes this same look. You'll have a Did You Know? Each one will have an infographic about the average person, and you can print these out, compare countries, or as you're highlighting a different country. It includes its official name. You can play the anthem, view the flag and get the history about that flag, and some basic country data here at the bottom. On the left-hand side, each one of these world reports will include some background information about the people, for example, population, religion, general attitudes, customs and courtesies, lifestyle, and society. Many of these are going to be really important whether you're studying a country, visiting a country, or interacting with a native of that country. For example, to look at what the gestures are and courtesies. For example, we may inadvertently be insulting a different country by using something that's very common for us. Language is fascinating for Papua New Guinea. They have over 800 distinct languages spoken there. It includes dating, marriage, and life cycle, and arts and holidays. So it's fascinating, especially this time of year, to take a look at what other countries are celebrating. On the right-hand side, you'll see that you can print out this full report and scroll down for more features. This includes a photo gallery, slideshows, interviews, which I think this is an interesting way to look at a different country, and that's having interviews with these people that are natives to that country. There's also a list of famous people and recipes. Recipes are a great way, whether you're cooking something for a book you're reading or just cooking around the world, but to also take a look at what is most available, what they're eating, what their diet is in a different country. So for example, you might see that there's a lot of cabbage or sweet potatoes or something you may not have heard of, the taros. So it gives another look at the culture and the people. Back here on the main page, also on the right-hand side, you'll see that I can link to the kids version of Papua New Guinea. So if there is a kids version of this country, I can go straight to that version. I'd encourage everyone to use both the World Edition and the Kids Edition, because as you see, there are different things that are highlighted, beginning with right here, the largest species of butterfly. wingspan as long as a foot. I mean, those are things you don't get on the world version. It also includes under history a timeline, and that you'll see in the kids version for reading level for both kids, states, and provinces. Also on here, under lifestyle, is a great thing called Life as a Kid. And this gives a basic overview of what a kid's life is like, where they live, what they play with, where they go to school. In addition to that, farther on the right, you'll see that there's an interview listed, and here Alan describes a daily routine. But you can also read the full interview, who he lives with, describing your house, what's your favorite game, holiday, pets, what are you good at, what do you wish for, what makes you laugh, on what it's like to be a kid. They also include under language on the kids version a can you say it. Let's go back over here to the right side. Again, we see the photo gallery, slideshows, interviews, famous people, as well as the recipes. Below that, for each one of these, that you also have tools, graphs and tables, world time, distance calculator, and the currency calculator. It also links straight to some teaching activities and some curriculum standards. I'm going to go back out to the main page using the logo here at the very top left. And before we move on, I want to drop down here in the gray area at the bottom, and they include a FAQ. This will tell you what the different editions are and what their reading level is. So World Edition is junior high school and up. And the kids, states, and Canadian provinces are for upper elementary students and up. But like I mentioned, I think everyone should use both World and the kids. It also gives you an indication of what's available in each one, who writes them, when they're updated, can use the photos. The other thing down here is the training or the teaching activities, which using along with the kids edition and the World Edition gives you 79 activities. Let me scroll down to the table of contents. They're listed alphabetically by grade. So you'll see that we have grades K through 5. And let's just scroll down to 1. For example, a look at Haiti. This is a writing and discussion assignment. There are Common Core standards and National Curriculum standards, the time requirement, and then it tells you what you'll need. Kids Edition for Haiti and the photo gallery, and then what the kids need to do and how they're going to use those photographs. So it gives you a lot of ways to extend the use, creating activities, and also using activities that are here for both adults or kids in school and in your public library. We went into Kids Edition from the World Edition looking at Papua New Guinea, but let's open up the Kids Edition, and you'll see that they too have the drop-down alphabetical list for region and country, as well as the map. And we'll just go in quickly since you've seen one. Notice that I've gone in, you have the same did you know. On the left, people, places, history, lifestyle, society, and on the right, recipes and slideshows and photos. Back here on the main page, we can also view down here at the bottom, in addition to the FAQ, the teaching activities, but also curriculum standards. And as long as we've been talking about kids, we'll go look at that. So this includes the different Common Core and AASL, etc. standards. So let's move on to the states. You've got, again, a drop-down alphabetic menu, and you can use the map. I'm going to start with Minnesota. With the states, we also have a Did You Know? The motto, their map, that you can get a detailed map, outline map, or county map. A few quick facts, and then that distance calculator and the state time. The flag can also be printed out in PDF if you're using these as handouts for lessons. On the left-hand side for states, we again have information about place, for example, geography, and what that looks like and what it's looked like over time. The timeline, and then the cultures that came into that area and were in that area. It includes famous people. They've also recently added Native America, just giving that history of the peoples that were there. And then under fun facts and contacts, all of these list their state symbols. The state bird, they've added the sound. They also list their other symbols, and many states have symbols that we don't have. For example, Minnesota has a state drink and a state grain, and Wyoming doesn't have those. I'm going to use the breadcrumbs to just go back to the main page for Minnesota. And you'll also see that they have things that you would expect to be here: population and government, resources and economy. And you'll see that they're just basic paragraph in this upper elementary reading level. I'm going to go back to States Edition, and let's just pick Wyoming. You'll see that there's, again, the timeline for Wyoming and state symbols. So Wyoming, it has a state fossil. I'm going to come back out here to the state's main page and click on graphs and tables. Here you can create graphs and tables for basic information about the states. So for example, you can get a list of the state capitals, either alphabetic by state or alphabetic by capital, just by clicking on the up-down arrow next to that category. We can also look at persons in poverty, for example, and rank it. We can also look at different foreign-born populations, high school graduates, bachelor's degree, literacy rates, persons per household, income, average travel time to work. But the last one I'm going to show you is just most popular baby names in 2016, alphabetical by state. So I know you're all curious. I'm going to scroll down. And in Wyoming, it was Emma and Wyatt in 2016. So this has a broad range of information, from poverty rates to most popular baby names to famous people and recipes and mannerisms and cultures and holidays. Next, let's take a look at provinces. So these are the Canadian provinces. On the left, you'll see that they've included recipes, major league sports teams. Again, we can do those data tables, get a flag gallery. We can also print out a political map, outline map, or physical map of Canada. I'm going to select Newfoundland and Labrador. Again, we have the Did You Know? And I didn't know the Labrador Retriever and the Newfoundland are two species of dogs that came from this province. They have their motto and some quick facts here next to the flag. And like we've seen for states and countries, place information, environmental issues is new to the Canada. Timeline, subarctic survivors. Population and government. Famous people, of course, culture notes, and then their official emblems, which they call, what we call symbols. So they have the provincial flower, provincial bird, tree, provincial tartan, and their coat of arms. And they also have their recipes. And this has one of my most favorite title for a recipe, and that's figgy duff with molasses. And this one, it tells you what figgy means. It's raisins, and duff is the dough. Sometimes they'll tell you what it's if it's made for a special occasion, things like that. Now I want to show you a few things that you can get for all of the countries. I'm going to go back into World Edition and notice these tabs across the top in blue. And I'm going to start with the graphs and tables. We looked at that for the states. And now I'm going to show you the World Edition of graphs and tables. Again, we can do a table or a graph. Now we can select countries. So I'm just going to select Antigua, and then if I hit the control, I can also do Bahamas. And then I want to look at area in square miles and population. So let's create a comparison graph. And this is a really big difference in those two areas. So it tells me that I've Antigua and Barbuda and the Bahamas, and I've charted for area and I've charted for population. I can also look at things like we did before. So I can select world currencies, for example, and I can see alphabetically by country or territory what their currency is. I can go to famous people. There's a tab for that, and select alphabetically. So here's famous people under Russia. I can also go to interviews like we looked at for the various countries. And now I can look at all of them. So here's Afghanistan, Algeria, Argentina, Australia. How fascinating, and different ages. So I could have kids select kids their own age and compare countries and with their lifestyle, for example. I can look at all recipes, again, alphabetic. And for example, I can select Argentina. And there's also a link for photos. So I can pick photos by region. So we looked at Oceania. And now let's look at American Samoa. It looks as if there's one picture here. Please click on that because there are many more pictures behind that main labeled picture. We looked at the bottom here, the FAQ, the teaching activities, and the curriculum standards. They also include training resources. Under the training resources, you'll see that there's a training LibGuide, a brochure, and some customizable marketing tools on the right. If you go into the LibGuide, you'll see that it talks about what is CultureGrams and some product information. But there's also a tab here called Using CultureGrams in the Classroom. And that will give you some information about what they have, those learning tools and lesson plans. There's also some links to scavenger hunts for each one and some teaching activities. The other thing back here on the main page you'll see is that across the top here in the beige line, there's a link to their blog. Their blog has a lot of variety. The first one that comes up right now is CultureGrams Christmas recipe for a German gingerbread, and it gives information about their markets and then the recipe. But then the very next one is using CultureGrams to teach critical thinking, and it has an actual lesson on using this resource to teach students about critical thinking. There's also information about statistical information that they've pulled. And about various things, scavenger hunts. And then larger articles about, for example, this one, Finding Health and Happiness with the Japanese practice of forest bathing. So if you've heard about that. So you can see it will be really worthwhile to check in with this blog if you're getting acquainted with CultureGrams, if you're using CultureGrams in your library, in your classroom, or just curious yourself about your world. Like I mentioned, the Wyoming State Library has made it their marketing campaign for December. So on the training resources page at the Wyoming State Library, you'll see that there's a tab here for marketing resources. and an index of the monthly marketing campaigns. So you'll see we've had a whole year that we've featured. December is CultureGrams, and it takes you to a landing page with information about some other highlights for December, like National Fruitcake Day. And we've highlighted some of the recipes from CultureGrams. The link to this webinar will be right here. And then we've created some marketing links and downloads. So you can get to a Wyoming State Library CultureGrams flyer where we've included the gowild.net address at the top. There's also CultureGrams African Culture and a movie poster, as well as CultureGram bookmarks that you can print out and use. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to one of my very favorite resources that we have through gowild.net. I think it's wonderful for all ages, no matter what you're doing. If you're looking up a country that you've read about in a book or in your book club book, if you're cooking around the world, you're teaching kids about their world, I think this is a beautiful resource to access. And I hope you'll pause over the holidays and take a look at it, and perhaps even making figgy duff. Thanks for joining in. Bye now.